After the summer break, we can welcome you back to what is now a slightly overcast afternoon here at the Red Bull Ring for round 5 of the 2021 GT Open International Championship, featuring some of the most spectacular supercars in the world. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ian Silvestrin with you. In a few moments, I will be joined by Ida Wood in commentary here at the Red Bull Ring. What a sight this is. Arguably the most picturesque, the most beautiful racing circuit in the world, built way back in 1970 in its original configuration. We'll speak about that throughout the broadcast as we welcome you to wherever you are watching us live all around the world for round 5 of the 2021 championship. After the summer break, we were tired at Imola on the 23rd of July. We hope you had a great summer break as well, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. For those in the south, well, we hope winter was not too cold for you as we join you from, it was a warm afternoon, but it has got very dark all of a sudden as the cars make their way out onto the circuit for the formation lap prior to this 70-minute race. We'll come back tomorrow at 10 minutes to 2 for the 1-hour race. This is round 5 of 7 for the 2021 championship. And great to have a few new entries and drivers and teams with us here for this weekend as we rejoin after the series opener at the start of the year. That was at Paul Ricard in the south of France. We moved on to Spa-Francorchamps, the Hungaroring outside Budapest, Imola. This is round 5 here in Austria. In 2 weeks' time, we go to Monza for the penultimate round of the 2021 championship, and then on October 23 at Barcelona in Catalonia, we decide the 2021 championships. On board with HP Racing, they are back with us in the Lamborghini. Great to have the team who have been racing with us for the past few seasons, run by Harold Prochik. HP Racing International back with us with Gerhard Tweresa, who is from Austria, as you can see by the flag on the dash, who will start the race out of grid 7. The Green Tiger in car 17. I'm not making that up, that is written on the underside of the rear wing. Sam DeHaan and Charlie Eastwood for TF Sport. Sam will start out of position 5 in the Aston Martin. So a small crowd is building here at the Red Bull Ring, which is better than no crowd at all. This is the TF Sport, Tom Ferrier Motorsport, who had a great run at the Le Mans 24-hour race just a few weeks ago in the GTE AM class, finishing second in class. I'll stand corrected on that. They did have a great race for most of the week at what is undoubtedly the biggest motor race on earth. Mario Hirsch is back with us. Great to have them back in the field, along with Dominic Schrammel, the Equip Vitesse Mercedes, which was destroyed just a few hundred meters after the start of the 2021 championship. This is the AKM Motorsport car. Nico Bastian behind the wheel, who will start the race out of grid 6. Andy Soucek. We'll call this one of 2 home races for the Austrian Spaniard, depending on which day of the week it is, depending on which passport, which nationality he claims. He is half Spanish, half Austrian. This is the Austrian round of the championship. The Spanish round of the championship, that's the final in October. So this weekend, he's a proud Austrian. He starts out of grid 2 in the Lechner Racing Porsche. Joe Osborne, though, took pole position this morning. His first pole position of the 2021 championship. Something like 7 different pole sitters thus far in the different races that we have had in 2021 for the qualifying sessions, the 2 qualifying sessions that we have at each round of the championship. Andy Soucek winds his way through the grid. Great to have your company wherever you are watching us live all around the world. There is Nick Moss, who will step into the car after the compulsory pit stop. Driving the 72 McLaren, Joe Osborne, taking pole position, his first pole position of the 2021 championship earlier this morning. Interestingly, it is a Pro-Am car. Not that it matters when they're behind the wheel too much. So a Pro-Am car, that of Joe Osborne, has taken pole position right ahead of 4 Pro cars. We'll take a look at the grid for you in its entirety in just a few moments. We are still a few moments away from the start. This is Joe Osborne, Inception Racing, Optimum Motorsport. Takes pole position in the McLaren. Andy Soucek did sit on pole position for much of the session.
Thank you, Grant.
I'll see you later, maybe.
Yeah, how was it? It was good, no?
Yeah, it's okay.
Andy pulled into pit lane, 3 minutes to go, and he was in P1. By the time he stepped out of the car, he was displaced from the top spot. This is Michele Beretta, who is equal first in the championship. Yuki Nemoto from Japan, the second of the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghinis. Great to see them on track once again. Sam DeHaan sharing this car with Charlie Eastwood. TF Sport back with us in GT Open. This is the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes GT3. It's been a big weekend for the Antonelli Motorsport team. We'll speak about that throughout the broadcast. Florian Schultz and Nico Bastian. Gerhard Tuareza, the local driver, starts out of grid 7. The second McLaren of Brendan Irib, who just arrived at the circuit overnight. A quick trip across the Atlantic Ocean. Lucky to be here, thankful to be here, and he'll line up on the 4th row of the grid. We welcome back the Polish team of Olymp Racing with 2 different cars, 4 Polish drivers. Marcin Jadlinski, who will share that car with Karol Bash. And this is the sole Japanese entrant in the field, Jens Renault Moller. Of course, sharing the NSX with the other Norwegian driver, Marcus Baverud. Balf Motorsport, former champions, former GT Open international champions in 2017 off memory. Sean Balf and the immensely talented Adam Carroll. Mario Hirsch, great to see this car back on a circuit. You may remember the opening round of the series at Paul Ricard in the south of France. It was destroyed in turn 3, lap 1 of race 1. Stanislav Jedlinski, also for Olymp Racing. Out of grid 13. Let's take a look at the highlights of what happened last time out at the home of the Emilia-Romagna Formula 1 Grand Prix at l'Autodromo di Imola. Loris Spinelli on this occasion was driving the AKM Motorsport Mercedes. And we were also joined by Riccardo Agostini and Lorenzo Ferrari in the Audi Italia entry. They were the pace setters. This was a brilliant battle between Beretta, Schandorf and Soucek and Al Faisal Al Zubair. It was the AKM Mercedes that took victory in race 1 at Imola on the second last weekend of July. The Audi Sport Italia of Lorenzo Ferrari, Riccardo Agostini, was in contention for the victory but did not have the best start. Loris Spinelli would be penalised for that moment right there in the opening stages of race 2. A great battle as Agostini and Ferrari in the Audi carved their way through the field, firstly going by Yuki Nemoto. Andy Soucek and Al Faisal Al Zubair taking the victory in race 2 at Imola. This is the Drivers' Championship. It is close. Schandorf and Beretta on 91 points are just in the lead of the championship by 5 points over Andy Soucek. Welcome to the home of the Austrian Formula 1 Grand Prix. This is the Red Bull Ring. This is round 5 of the 2021 International GT Open Championship. Joe Osborne will start from pole position alongside Andy Soucek. The Vincenzo Sospiri Lamborghinis will start on the second row of the grid. Michele Beretta and the Japanese driver Yuki Nemoto. Then we go to Sam DeHaan and Nico Bastian. Sam with us in the TF Sport Aston Martin. Nico Bastian for AKM Motorsport in the Mercedes. Gerhard Tuareza and the HP Racing International Lamborghini. Brendan Irib in the second McLaren. Marcin Jadlinski The Polish team are back, and then Jens Renault Moller in the Honda starts alongside the pole. Sean Balfe for Balfe Motorsport is alongside Mario Hirsch in the 15 Mercedes, and Stanislav Jedlinski in the second Olymp Racing entry. That is the 5 Audi GT3 out of grid 13. It has got overcast, it has got dark, and the temperature has dropped quite dramatically just in the last half hour as we get ready for the start, the rolling start of this 70-minute race. Ian Silvestrin with you in commentary once again. I am delighted to be joined by Ida Wood. Ida, it has got really dark, really cool, really quickly. Some of the teams already down in pit lane preparing wet tyres.
Yeah, I think they think rain is on the way. Now, luckily, we do have a rolling start, so there's going to be a bit of tyre temperature already there. Otherwise, could it be, it could be chaos at turn one. And with a class of Pro-Am cars as well, mostly Pro-Ams where a lot of the AM drivers are in first, and they are great drivers, but equally, the first lap is normally where most of the action is, so they need to be as careful as they can be.
The safety car will pull into pit lane. Joe Osborne, he is in a Pro-Am car. He is the pole sitter to the left of your screen in the McLaren, the Porsche on the outside of the front row. Round 5 of the International GT Open Championship. Here at the Red Bull Ring, Joe Osborne in the McLaren leads the field up to the line. And for the first time this weekend, we race. Perfect start from Osborne. He'll lead the field down into turn 1 as Michele Beretta already goes up the inside and takes second place away from Andy Soucek. Nico Bastian runs wide. It's a relatively clean start. Sean Balfe going wheel to wheel with Jens Renault Moller. They're 3 wide further back in the pack on the opening lap of the race. Nico Bastian looking for a way by not 1, but 2 Lamborghinis. Osborne with the race lead. Andy Soucek in second place has retaken the place from Michele Beretta. They're side by side as they race down the back straight on the opening lap of the race. A fantastic start here at the Red Bull Ring. Look at Sam DeHaan in the TF Sport. Aston Martin trying to make his way by both the Porsche and the Lamborghini. He means business here, does the Brit in car 69. Sam DeHaan all over the back of Andy Soucek, who was briefly into second place on the opening lap of the race. You ride on board with Sam DeHaan.
You can see the data log on the car there saying 341. Don't think that was the speedometer, but it does show there's so much information the drivers have at hand here. They have driving aids as well, which coming through, and you see they've got their lights on already, so you're going to need your car to be working for you as the track temperature drops significantly with the sun receding behind the grandstand. In fact, we can't even see it in the sky anymore. The lights are fully on, and Osborne ends a lap with 1.5 seconds in hand. Beretta was fastest in the final sector, but he's already broken away.
Fantastic stuff from Joe Osborne. As the field make their way by our commentary position, we can feel the vibrations from these GT3 supercars. They thunder by us, and now they race up the hill on the second lap of the race. Osborne, Beretta, Andy Soucek. Sam DeHaan watches this battle. Nico Bastian's just behind. Ooh, almost runs into the back.
Yeah, so Nico Bastian actually overtook Yuki Nemoto kind of going through turn 2. Nemoto thought about going back, but as he jinked out for turn 3, car behind got incredibly close, and Nemoto has lost a lot of ground. The second Vincenzo Spirit Lamborghini doesn't quite seem to have the pace of the first of the cars this weekend. Joe Osborne, 1.5 seconds ahead now. Michele Beretta is closing in, but only by 0.005 seconds in that first sector.
So it's actually Theresa we're on board with. Nico Bastian is just ahead. He's already in position 5. Oh, a moment. Have we got rain already? That's the question which we will ask.
The windscreen does have a few marks on it, but throughout this year, we've had some weird windscreen inquiries, and it hasn't usually been fluid. It's normally been air bubbles with the cover they put over the top of it. So we're not going to make any bets that it is rain quite yet. We can see the positions gained so far. Yuki Nemoto down 2 places, so he qualified in 4th place, but he's already lost significant ground, and this is really important for him because there's only 4 Pro Class cars, and he is the 4th car. He won't be on the podium if the race stays as it is.
So Sam DeHaan in 4th place. Behind Andy Soucek, who goes through. There is the Aston Martin ahead of Sam DeHaan. Nico Bastian, Jens Renault Moller runs wide in the Honda NSX as they race up the hill for the 3rd time. This is a 70-minute race. We come back tomorrow afternoon for a 1-hour sprint. as far as endurance racing is concerned.
And I can't tell if it's rain, but there's a lot of almost moisture and dust in the air there. So someone's kicked up something, and there's enough moisture in the air that it was staying there as they exited turn 1 coming up the hill. So now heading back downhill. Now, if you're ever driving in a country lane, you'll notice this. You sometimes go through areas of fog and then you move up a bit of altitude and suddenly it disappears. That's all to do with the air pressure, and I think that's what we're observing here. So I think rain's on its way, quite definitely.
Yuki Nomoto on the back of Nico Bastian. You can see the colour codes for the categories. Pro is a red car, Pro-Am is a blue car. That is in the timing screen, or the graphic on the left of your screen, and the Am car, the sole Am car this weekend, is Stanislav Jedlinski, who's in position 13. So Nico Bastian and Yuki Nomoto having their own battle just ahead of Gerhard Tuareza. They're almost side by side into the Jochenring curves.
Yuki Nomoto really wants to regain that position because he's now got a Pro-Am car between himself and Sam Tahan, who is in the final podium position for Pro. And you can see the three of them running in tandem right just ahead as they come down the pit straight. It looks a little brighter at this point of the circuit, but as they go further uphill, it is significantly darker. And interestingly, Mercedes hasn't got its lights on.
Nico Bastian very close to the back of Sam Tahan now as they race up the hill. Yuki Nomoto just behind. And it's Tuareza who's ahead of Brendan Irebe in the background. There is dust just ahead. Let's see if they turn in or miss the apex. No problem this time for the British driver, Sam Tahan, in the British supercar, who holds off Nico Bastian, who's got Yuki Nomoto right behind. Spectacular slow-mo images at the exit of the Lauda Curve 1. Car 19 is the Japanese driver, Yuki Nomoto, who almost runs into the back of Nico Bastian. And Sam Tahan holds position 4. Joe Osborne continues to lead, and he's doing a superb job. The gap is 1.3 seconds back to Michele Beretta and Andy Soucek in position 3.
Yeah, Beretta had been fastest on the previous 2 laps, but Osborne has responded. Warning flag car 17, so that's Gerhard Tuareza, who we've been on board with for quite some time. You know, he's just watching the cars in front, and he's actually exceeding track limits quite a few points now. The penalty system here is you get, I think, 5 or 6 warnings in total, and then you start receiving penalties. Race control observes they've got, because it's an F1 track, in the track itself it can tell if you're going over the lines. The cameras will support that as well, so there is no evading capture. Essentially, if you've gone across the white lines, they'll see you doing it.
Yuki Nomoto tries to have a look down the inside of Nico Bastian. They're side by side. He takes him, but runs off the circuit. Bastian holds the place. They're side by side as they race up the hill. This gives Sam Tahan some breathing space. Spectacular side-by-side racing in the GT Open International Championship. The Lamborghini versus the Mercedes. The Aston Martin is gone. And in the background, Brendan Irebe closing in on the back of Gerhard Tuareza. This is fantastic racing here at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, incredible action there. And because of how front the long-nosed Mercedes, he couldn't actually see Nomoto until he was completely alongside there. And the fact that he went completely past him and then he cut across almost IndyCar style, very good that they evaded any kind of collision there, as we did see one of the Mercedes have at Imola a few weeks ago.
Tuareza is really fighting this Lamborghini, but he is staying in touch with Bastian just ahead. We did have the start under investigation. No further action, we are being told from race control. We're just a few laps into the start of this 1 hour, 10-minute race. Joe Osborne driving superbly out front. He is the fastest driver on the circuit. He's 1.8 seconds ahead of Michele Beretta, who is the championship leader. He will hand over to Frederick Schandorf, the Great Dane, at the halfway point of the race. As the teams, we can see they're down in pit lane. They're starting to look at the sky. They will be trying to time this, I'll get this right, if it does rain, to the compulsory pit stop window. This is Yuki Nomoto just a few moments ago. Luckily for the Japanese driver, where he is right now, used to be nothing but sand.
Yeah, but it would have damaged the underside of the car going that wide as well. You can still see the dust hanging in the air. It almost might be calm before the storm. There's zero wind there because the storm is coming, potentially. It's definitely a sign that there is some kind of weather movement on its way. But following the Lamborghini, up to Tuareza in 8th place, currently 4th in Pro-Am. So Joe Osborne, he's actually got essentially he's got a 9-second lead because Nico Bastian is his closest class rival. As we're seeing them go side by side, Brendan Irebe, Gerhard Tuareza. Irebe tries the outside, doesn't get it done. but he's going to have a stronger line because Tuesa ran a little wide on the exit of the corner, took a bit of curb. The McLaren, a bit sleeker, could punch through the air with a smaller gap through it, but the Lamborghini is very wide and therefore it's very hard to pass.
Jens Reno Moller in the Honda in the background, staying in touch with that battle. In position 9 ahead of the returning Sean Balfe in the red and white Audi R3 or R8 GT3. There is Tuesa going through, fighting with Brendan Ired. And Jens Reno Moller in the background in the NSX. So for the moment, the race has settled down. Thankfully, it was a hectic start as the field thunders by our commentary position. A move down the inside. Sam DeHaan just does defend, but he'll be vulnerable on the exit. Not only to Nemoto, but also Nico Bastian in the car that did win at Imola with Loris Spinelli at the wheel as they race up the hill. Aston Martin, Lamborghini, and the Mercedes GT3, some of the most beautiful, desirable, spectacular supercars in the world in the GT Open International Championship, which, as we say, is being led by car 63, Frederic Schandorf and Michele Beretta. Beretta in second place at the moment. Osborne 2.3 seconds and pulling away from the Italian.
The Aston Martin doing a good job of defending there. Got its lights on, so temperatures and the light is decreasing as we go around this circuit. That's going to make it harder for these drivers, and particularly hard for the people they hand over to, because the track's going to be so much colder than at any point they've been running in during this weekend. We go back to our lead car, Joe Osborne, 40.242 second sector. Michele Beretta 2/10 faster. So Beretta is keeping just about in tabs of him. We've still got an hour of this race to go, and there's 2 seconds between our top 2 cars and another 2.7 seconds to Souček further back. Now the Porsche, you know, the Red Bull Ring probably isn't Porsche's best circuit, if we're honest. So that's a pretty good gap for Souček to remain with the McLaren and the Lamborghini. And we go on board almost with Souček. We're going to see his external view. Hopefully we're going to go inside the car so we can actually see what the drivers are seeing right now, because from our point it looks very dark here.
Very wide turn in line from Andy, who's in third place at the moment. And this battle rages on between Sam DeHaan, Yuki Nemoto and Nico Bastian. The lights are on the Aston Martin, as we say. They did race at the Le Mans 24-hour race, the biggest motor race on earth, just a few weeks ago in the GT AM class. They had a great run, finishing 26th outright, and I think it was second in class. They had a great week. It is incredibly difficult just to get to the checkered flag, as what Toyota know, as from a couple of years ago.
And as unfortunately as reigning Euro Formula champion Yifei knows as well.
Yes, yes, exactly.
In fact, Ferdinand Hasberg as well. So a lot of Euro Formula and GT Open graduates were in the field at Le Mans. It's a great kind of training series for single seats drivers going to prototypes. And for the sports car drivers like these two here, it's great to practice the battling. Sam DeHaan defending the position hard. Yuki Nemoto really wants to make up the ground to the drivers ahead of him. But he's got an almost 10-second gap to make up to teammate Michele Beretta up in second place. Now, it'd be very brave to try and overtake through the final 2 corners, but Yuki Nemoto is actually looking. He dives back in behind, going down through turn 9. It's far steeper than the camera suggested is, and it's even steeper going into turn 10, where Nico Bastian has closed back in. So we've got a 3-car battle for 4th place. We've got a 3-car battle for 7th place. And then Michele Beretta is closing back in on Joe Osborne up front. We're going to go back to turn 1, and the Moto uses all the road and more, taking an extra bit of track that isn't technically exceeding track limits because you're on a straight, but if you gain advantage by passing someone, the stewards do not look favourably upon that. Going uphill from turn 1 to turn 2, that is the kind of kink in the straight where you go up to the Ramus hairpin, where you do see a lot of action. Yuki Nemoto thinks about it. He is actually going to dive down the inside. Do they make contact? It doesn't look like they do. The Aston Martin stays ahead. And look, the sky is really bright at the top of the hill. So maybe our cloud movement has moved away. And looking outside the commentary box window, actually, it has brightened up as well. So I'd expect some of these cars to turn their lights off. There's no more worried-looking team members in the pit lane either. So all of those wet tyres they may have prepared have probably gone back under the covers. They've got these little sheds or tents maybe that you warm up the tyres in, because once you put them on the car, they've got to be, you know, up to temperature very quickly when we get to the driver switchover zone.
Don't speak too quickly. We've still got 1 hour of racing to go. And if we don't get rain this afternoon, I'll be honest, I'll be surprised. We got a glimpse a moment ago of Carol Bash who's down in the garage. He'll be stepping in the 777 Mercedes Olymp racing car in just a few moments. Well, half race distance, still quite a few minutes away from the start. If I can use this from the turnover, I should say, the pit stop, you know what I mean, before he gets in the car. If I can use the cliche, the stereotype, Yuki Nomoto, the Japanese driver, is showing traditional flair and putting the 19 Lamborghini all over the road. He's already gone through one side by side. Fabulous pass, and this time Nomoto's done it. Can he hold off Sam Dahan, who's right behind him? He tried lap after lap, corner after corner. Dahan almost runs into the back of car 19. Yuki Nomoto side by side. They're almost 3 wide. Now watch Nico Bastian in the background. So that's nicely done, nicely held by Yuki Nomoto. He's gone through and taken 4th place away from Sam Dahan. The Brit tries to fight back.
Yeah, Sam Dahan actually got all the way ahead, but just left just enough room for Nomoto to dive back inside. He's going to try and take the outside line just like he did at turn 3. He's going to tuck back in behind. There isn't really room to get back alongside because of how this straight curves along to the next left-hander, but he's thinking about taking the outside line. We've seen a few drivers who have attempted that and have ended up just running through the gravel. Now he's got Nico Bastian probably nudging him in the gearbox there, and he's actually going to try and dive down the inside, thinks better of it. He's going to maintain that 6th place now. So these 3 cars, although they're battling and we're really enjoying this battle, they are losing around half a second a lap to the cars ahead of them. So there's now a 7.5 second gap to Andy Soucek in 3rd place. Yuki Nomoto, though, now he's in 4th, and he knows he should have the pace of Michele Beretta, who's in the sister Vincenzo's Spirit Lambo. He's going to be pulling away from these two. He really wants to evade this battle.
He already is. Yuki Nomoto will check the gap. It was only centimetres last time. Yuki Nomoto, the gap back to the Aston Martin behind. It's still just a few tenths of a second, about half a second. Nico Bastian, it looks as though he's got the pace to go through as well. Sam Dahan drove brilliantly in the opening 15 minutes of this race, but it looks as though he'll struggle to hold off Nico Bastian for much longer in the AKM Mercedes, which did win at Imola with Spinelli behind the wheel. Nico Bastian, as we take a look at the replay, down the inside into the Niki Lauda turn 1, just squeezed his way by, got on the throttle early. He did this move just a few laps earlier. It didn't pay off then, sideways on the exit. Spectacular from the Japanese driver, and he takes the place. This is on board with Mario Hirsch and Dominic Schrammel, who loses the place to Marcin Jedlinski. Nice pass by Jedlinski, goes through into 11th, and Nico Bastian, who started the season over in the United Arab Emirates when he finished 5th in the Dubai 24-hour race, was in contention for that until the dying stages. Well, at the moment, Nico is in position 6 in the opening race here this weekend at the Red Bull Ring.
And he is sharing the car with Florian Scholz, but previously this year, AKM have run, obviously, Loris Spinelli, and I believe Spinelli's in America this weekend. He has a lot of racing programs all around the world. He's really promising GT driver this year. I think this is probably the best year of his racing career, particularly in GT Open, with very dominant performances he's shown. And you can see the rear wings shaking on the Mercedes there. Yeah, that is the vibrations running through the car. Although a lot of the weight's on the front axles, you'd expect almost less of that movement at the back of the car. Chasing Sam Dahan, Yuki Nomoto's now got a 1.4 second advantage. He really kind of thoroughly placed his car ahead of them when he made those passes. But he had to get the job done because he knows he's fighting the cars further up the order than the Aston Martin and the chasing Mercedes.
So the Lamborghinis are in 2nd and 4th position. Nico Bastian still behind in the AKM Mercedes. Yes, Loris Spinelli, that was with us at Imola on the other side of the Atlantic, racing in the Super Trofeo Series over in the USA for much of 2021. It's been, as you say, a disastrous year for many around the world, not for Loris. On the top step of the podium at Imola.
Although he did actually in one of these races have a driver change where he dominated the first stint, and then I think a very slow driver change. And when they moved out, they almost hit another car in the pit lane, and they got a penalty from that. But what that then meant is he didn't have the success penalty from the next round, which enabled him to dominate.
There is Marco Antonelli, team manager, in the centre of your screen. A big week for Marco.
Yeah. And to be fair, he was driving last time out, so he had a lot to think about. But his son, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, likes to be known as Kimi, I wonder why, made his Formula 4 debut at this circuit about 7 hours ago. Did a very good job, finished 9th. Now, he broke his leg last year, or at the start of this year, and it still hasn't fully recovered. So he is driving incredibly well on his debut performance, finished 9th, and I'm going to be talking to him again later today because he's making some big progress as we go back to the battle between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. Now, the Aston Martin's kept its lights on, but it looks as sunny as it has all day now. Maybe he's just forgotten they're on.
For the moment, we've still got 50 minutes remaining. Nico Bastian sits in behind Sam de Haan. We take a look at the replay of Gerhard Therese going through. Brendan Irie just behind. And the Austrian does run off the circuit ever so slightly. Gerhard Therese will hand over to the German driver, Jan Seifert. HP Racing International back with us in the GT Open Championship for 2021. Just getting back to the Lamborghinis for a moment. That was the car, another replay coming up, of Sam de Haan going through. Bastian, look at the close-up of Nico working the wheel of the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes. That was Marco Antonelli. Yes, a big week for him, with his boy making his debut in the Italian F4 Championship earlier today here at the Red Bull Ring. This is Joe Osborne in the lead. The gap stays at 1.8 seconds. Michael Beretta, as we like to anglicise his name, as they come up to put a lap on Stanislav Jedlinski in the Olympia racing car.
Now, Jedlinski could come into play with this battle here because it's easy to let one car past when you're being lapped, but two at once, not so easy. And he's being shown the blue flag, so he's been told to move to the side, but because there's a bit of a kink in the straight, which side do you go to? Because you're going to potentially have a Mika Hakkinen scenario where cars are coming either side. They're not going to get the move done at turn 3. And I think Sam de Haan's looking a little stressed at the wheel. He was drifting, didn't know which way to go, didn't realise he was actually too far away to make a pass.
Stanislav Jedlinski goes to the right. The lights are flashing.
He's gone
on
to
the
the right as
Aston
well.
Martin. Has to stay out of the way, gets on the brakes early, stays off the racing line. Nicely done by Jedlinski, does not hold up either Sam de Haan or Nico Bastian. They continue this fight for 5th and 6th positions. As we are being told that the team manager of car 72, that is our race leader, Joe Osborne, to immediately go to the stewards. Joe Osborne with 1.9 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, but there is now a cloud, and I don't mean that, which provides rain here, hanging over the 72 McLaren.
And 17 and 11 as well, so that's Gerhard Therese in 7th place and Jens Renault Moller in 9th. Now, Renault Moller is kind of sandwiched between Irie and Sean Balfe at the moment. Go back to the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. A little bit of tyre smoke, I think, from the rear left there of the Mercedes. So that's shouldn't be possible, given how much drive rates they do have on these cars. I think he's going to dive down the inside into turn 1 because he's got a long nose, he can do it. Vibrations at the rear of the car again as he goes to the first one. You know what? Potentially with the wheelbase, it's bottoming out as you hit that crest, or as it starts to go up. And that means if you hit the brakes, you're going to get a retardation. You don't want to flat spot the tyres. Therefore, you've got to be a little more casual as you go into that corner. And that's why he hasn't closed in as much as he did at all the other corners.
The lights are still on the Aston Martin as now the sun does come out to shine. And the thick, dark black clouds, you can see them just in the background, disappear over the Austrian hillside. For the moment, the track stays green, it stays dry, and we continue on this race. TF Sport, run by Tom Ferrier. He started at this team almost a decade ago. Of course, Tom, a former competitor, a former driver himself in the British Touring Car Championship. Now as a team owner, no time to get behind the wheel these days, but runs a top-notch team. The British team, the British supercar, with Sam de Haan behind the wheel. Nico Bastian trying to find his way by, though he's close. Another opportunity as they race down the hill into the Jochenring curves.
Getting very aggressive, trying to maybe not go for a pass, but just put himself in the mirrors, tell Sam de Haan that he is there and he wants to make a move, rides the inside curbs of turn 9, runs wide on the exit though, so that's not going to help him as he cuts right. This time he is definitely going to have to try and take that inside line, because if he stays on the outside, he's going to have that little wobble again. Sam de Haan, though, just stayed in his line. He's picked where he wants to go. Brakes fairly late, maintains a position. Is de Haan going to maintain it, though, all the way up to turn 3?
Sideways on the exit is Sam de Haan as Yuki Nomoto disappears at the bottom of your screen. He's walked clear of this battle. Nico Bastian, will he make the move up the inside into turn 3? Thinks about it. So close to the back of the Aston. And Sam de Haan battles on for another lap at least. Yuki Nomoto, you can see the 19 Lamborghini down the road. He's driven superbly. To pull away from this battle, Yuki Nomoto in position 4. The lights are on the Aston, the sun is shining here at the Red Bull Ring as Joe Osborne continues to lead. He's on your screen, but his team manager has been asked to go up to race control immediately.
Kelly Beretta 2 seconds back now. 15 laps in, around 7 laps, it was a 1.4 second lead. It extended to 1.8 and kind of hovered around that area for a while. So Osborne's not breaking away, and when they get to the driver switch point, which begins in 5 minutes, or begins in 4 minutes actually, it then comes down to the success handicap. So depending on how good your results have been recently, that will dictate how much longer you have to remain in the pits. So Osborne may be 2 seconds ahead now, but he may be even further ahead on the exit pits, or potentially Beretta will get past. And we go back to Aston Martin and Mercedes. Mercedes is going to try and draw alongside, going down the pit straight in bright sunlight, tucks back in behind, takes a wider entry so you can get the tighter apex move, but he's run over the curb, so lost that little bit of extra momentum he had. He's going to try and take the outside line, although it's a straight line, so it's not much of an outside. Once you get to turn 3, it becomes the outside.
Sam Dahan still holding off. Bastian behind. Extremely experienced is Nico. As we take a look at a replay of Michele Beretta going through turn 1. The gap has stayed at 1.8 to 2 seconds. Just a tenth in it depending on the lap. Beretta in second place from Joe Osborne.
And Yuki Nomoto has been handed a 3-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Now he is 6 seconds clear of Sam Dahan and 5.85 seconds behind Andy Soucek, who he's been chasing down since clearing these 2 cars we're watching now, who we have been stuck with since the very start of this race. They've provided quite a bit of entertainment, but if I was Nico Bastian, I'd be quite frustrated right now because it's been 24 minutes in this race and he still hasn't been able to get past the Aston Martin. Similarly, if I was Sam Dahan, and he's actually going to try and draw alongside in turn 9, thinks better of it, stays behind. He's running, I think it's because of the way the Mercedes set up, using a lot more of the entry curbs at the end of the lap, but obviously then taking wider lines for the first corner and the uphill corners at the start of the lap because of that long wheelbase. It works in some areas, it doesn't work elsewhere.
Confirmation at the top of your screen that Yuki Nomoto has been penalised. Unfortunately for his teammate, it is Baptiste Moulin who effectively will pay the price for that. We'll keep an eye on that towards the end of the race. 3 seconds to be applied at the end of the race as Nico Bastian still tries to find a way past Sam Dahan. So the Aston Martin, welcome back to the GT Open International Championship. Just trying to make a point a few moments ago about the 2 Lamborghinis. They are leading the championship. Lamborghini in first position with Frederick Schandorf and Michele Beretta. They're on 91 points coming into this 5th round of the series. And Andy Soucek, who is in 3rd place in the race, he is 2nd in the 2021 championship on 86 points. For many of our fans watching all around the world, Lamborghini, they had, well, let's just say, an enormous setback at the Spa 24-hour race when Jack Aitken, he was only released from hospital a few days ago, in fact, had that enormous crash in Eau Rouge. That brought out the safety car for the best part of an hour. That really did dent the Lamborghini Motor Company. They are still leading the GT Open International Championship, but there is good news on the horizon for the Italian manufacturer. The Huracan, the V10, which is racing with us in the GT Open International Championship, it is the flagship model from Bologna, from Lamborghini, but the big news in the last month, the Countach is back. It's a hybrid V12 powered car. We have to pose the question to Lamborghini, will we see the Countach racing with us in GT3 in the future?
Yeah, and there's another question to them, but I'll get back to it in a bit because we did see Sam Dahan and Nico Bastian almost going side by side into the first corner. Just 2 tenths separated them. Behind them is Teresa and Irene. A second between those two. We're back on the Sam Dahan Nico Bastian battle, which has been with us for almost half an hour now, so he didn't get the move done, but he is getting very, very close to the rear of the Aston Martin. The tyres aren't going to be, responding as they were at the start of this stint, so it's going to be harder to, brake later, choose your line at last minute, a bit of lateral movement. You want to do less of that because when you hand over the car, you want as fast an in-lap as possible, so when you come back out, you're not in any kind of traffic. The other question I was going to ask of Lamborghini actually is the top class of prototype sports cars. There's very strong rumours they're going to be going to America with an LMDH program. I can't say if I know any more about it, but I'm very excited to see what might become of it.
Nico Bastian down the inside. We'll get back to that in a moment because that talking point is not finished yet. As Nico Bastian on the outside almost runs out of road as Michele Beretta dives down into pit lane. We'll get back to that in just a moment. And Sam Dahan has finally had to concede the place while he dives into pit lane. That's one way to do it. Nico Bastian has gone through as Michele Beretta in the Lamborghini, the manufacturer that we were just speaking about, down in pit lane. So it will be Frederick Schandorf who gets behind the wheel of the 63 Vincenzo Sospiri racing car. So early pit stops from most of these drivers. Charlie Eastwood.
That's Brendan Irie handing over to Ollie Milroy, I think, in the Inception McLaren. Then we've got Jens Renault Moller handing over to Pavrud, and I think the Balf Audi as well. But going back to Sam Dahan, can we hear them?
This is Charlie Eastwood taking over from Sam Dahan. And the second McLaren, Ollie Milroy getting in car 7. Jens Renault Moller gives the wheel to the young Norwegian, Marcus Pavrud, in the 11 NSX. The 777 Olymp racing car. I'm really excited to see Carol Bash get behind the wheel. We'll speak about the pole in just a moment. Balf Motorsport, Adam Carroll, a motorsport superstar over the past decade, back with us in GT Open International. And Adam Carroll will take over the wheel of the 22 car in position 10. So we'll keep one eye on the Irishman throughout the remaining 40 minutes of the race. Joe Osborne continues on out front.
I think he's almost a lap ahead. He's exactly a lap ahead. Yeah, but the Aston Martin closed up significantly, at least at pit exit, although I think they might have had a red light at the end of pit lane, so that's cost him time, I think, because he was almost on the rear of what was the Beretta Lamborghini, but it's now changed hands as they got to the end of the pit lane. And then as they exited, I could only see one of those cars, so potentially he's been held up in there. Joe Osborne, though, I mean, he doesn't want to let this Lamborghini pass, but he's got nothing to lose because he is essentially a lap ahead of the car and will have less of a success handicap. However, they are also in different classes, I believe. Frederick Schandorf's in the Pro, Joe Osborne's in Pro-Am, so he actually has to worry about Nico Bastian, who's currently in 4th place and 24 seconds behind.
I have to make a very quick but very, very important correction. Of course, Adam Carroll is from Northern Ireland.
Yes.
There is a big difference, don't
But
you?
he did drive for A1 Team Ireland, which was a collection of basically Irish people.
Yeah.
Which was a brilliant, brilliant team. If you ever, read stories about that season where they won the A1 GP title.
2009, he was the champion.
Utterly incredible. And unfortunately, that kind of team kind of dissipated. Status Grand Prix did a load of other things, but not with that core personnel that turned it into such a brilliant operation.
He is technically from Northern Ireland. It's like you never want to call a Scotsman an Englishman, a Canadian an American. I guess you don't want to call a Belgian a Dutchman, and the list goes on.
Well,
Adam Carroll.
We have quite a few obscure nations in GT Open. We often have Andorran drivers. We haven't had a Gibraltar yet, but in Euro Formula today we had someone from Reunion Island.
And if you're still France.
Well, it's a department of France, but it is an island south of Madagascar in the middle of nowhere, so I'd call it an obscure country if I could.
Fair point.
Yeah.
And of course the Poles are with us in force here this weekend. So Joe Osborne continues on. Andy Soucek still in 2nd place.
The lights are back on. Now, you normally have a polarizing filter which would stop that kind of lens flare, which suggests there might be a bit of moisture. So Jan Seifert getting into his car, Gerald Trazer handing over, and you see that livery, the green and black. It's supposed to be a bit of a tiger. I haven't seen a tiger in those colours, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's a pretty cool car. I think the Lamborghinis in general do look very cool. With it. The rear end of the car is, I don't think it's just wider than the front. It almost reminiscent of 1970s F1 cars with the big rear tyres, and particularly when they're overtaking others, they use the rear of that car to their advantage when they're passing. As we return to number 72, Joe Osborne. So he has still got, I think, around 10 minutes or 9 minutes before he has to hand over the car.
And
he's
he
going to
stays
do another
out.
lap. Yes, so he's got a 11.5 second advantage. That is the only AM class car at the moment going in. I'll hand over to Christian
Korsankowski.
Yeah. Still see
Stanislav
Lamborghini, so
Yedlinski.
only 3 more cars set to pit, I think.
So the second Olymp racing car in pit lane for their compulsory stop. Jan Seifert has also taken over the 17 Lamborghini. Andy Soucek still stays out on track. Joe Osborne on your screen in car 72 continues to lead.
And I was wondering earlier, because he's had track limit warnings, Joe Osborne has, but obviously we didn't see it because we were following the battle between cars further back, and there's a little bit of grass in the radiator, so that would suggest he has gone off, at least in the radiator grill. We're now looking at the number 7 McLaren, that's Ollie Milroy, who's taken over from Brendan Eyring, who came in at the very last minute to the circuit this weekend. A special charter flight to get over to Austria, and Jan Seifert in the Lamborghini. Now that's his outlap, so the tyres aren't going to be up to temperature. He has no idea what the track conditions are like beyond what they spoke to each other in the pit stop, so this is more of an exploratory lap. However, he's also got the, I mean, he could pass the car at the same time, but he's got to learn the circuit conditions first rather than throw it all away by trying to dive down the inside of anyone.
Just a few seconds away from passing half race distance, race 1, round 5 of the 2021 International GT Open Championship. You are watching us live from the Red Bull Ring here in Austria. We started under threatening skies and the clouds have dissipated, and it looks as though we will actually finish on a dry circuit without rain here this afternoon. Jan Seifert works the wheel. It's an incredibly violent ride as he races down the hill. Jan Seifert in 8th position, Adam Carroll behind, the driver we spoke about just a few moments ago.
The fastest driver on track right now is Frederick Schandorf in the Lamborghini that has pitted. Yuki Nomoto is in the sister car that hasn't. So it does look like an advantage right now to pit for fresh tyres. However, the earlier you pit, when it gets to the end of the race, your tyres are going to be older than those who pitted later on. So that's where the strategic element comes in beyond the success handicap, where that kind of dictates your track position as you come out of the pit stop period. Joe Osborne lapping around on his own. He was raving essentially about qualifying. Really enjoyed just being on low fuel, fresh tyres, just going around this track, which doesn't have too many corners, so you've got 10 chances to get it bang on right, and therefore the Lamborghini
a moment in the background.
Yeah, blimey, I think those tyres might be past it.
Joe Osborne, underrated driver, we must say, incredibly experienced. Before the world did actually come to a grinding halt around about 18 months ago, did a lot of racing in Asian GT. Of course, a former class winner in the Michelin Cup in Le Mans GT racing, GT4 European champion way back over a decade ago. Some single-seater racing. The GT4 class winner in the Dubai 24-hour race. That was some 9 or 10 years ago, I think 2012. And Joe Osborne continues to lead from pole position in the 72 McLaren.
And now we've got a Lamborghini chasing a McLaren, albeit a lap down, but Yuki Nomoto, who's still chasing Andy Soucek for 2nd position, and these are the other 2 cars that haven't pitted yet.
Correct.
Now got that gap down to 3 seconds. It was, I think, 11 seconds fairly early on in this race, got it down to 8, and since this driver change window has begun, and that's kind of freed up a bit more track space as well ahead of him, it's closed down by almost half. So potentially Nomoto in the 5 minutes remaining, and he's lapping 4/10 faster per lap, could clear the Porsche during this pit stop period.
Superb slow-mo of the British supercar through Niki Lauda, turn 1 just a few moments ago. Joe Osborne will be handing over to Nick Moss. And, well, it can't be far away. The compulsory pit stop window is only a few minutes away from closing. I'd suggest to you it may even be on this lap. The same can be said for Andy Soucek in 2nd place. We'll keep an eye on the McLaren as he races down the hill. Will he pull to the right? Another lap, he stays out.
Yeah, he's got 4 minutes 35 on the clock to essentially get in the pit lane. And the lap is around 1 minute 29. He's maintained kind of similar lap times to the last 10 or so laps, hasn't dropped into the 1 minute 30s like the others who are yet to pit, but he is going slower than drivers who have already pitted. Andy Soucek is going to hand over to Al Faisal Al Zubair. He had to miss around earlier this season, unfortunately, but great to see him back. This combination has been spectacularly strong. I think it's one of those driver lineups where on paper you go, oh yeah, it's just, one driver teaching the other. When you put them together, they actually gel really, really well and get really good results on their races as well. So Soucek very fast to jump out. Al Zubair gets in. We can see the M-Class Audi moving the rear wheels, but hasn't got going. I'm sure that car went into the pits 1 or 2
Quite a few laps ago. They have obviously got a problem.
The rear wheels were spinning, but it was off the ground. And that's going to compromise the exit of the Porsche as well, because they're in the pit box just ahead of them.
Al-Faisal Al-Zubair takes over from Andy Soucek, the Austrian Spaniard. And that elevates Nico Bastian for the moment into third place. Slight correction on the exit. Look at the violence as he rides the curb. Joe Osborne staying out. Will he pull in to the pits this lap? The Audi still is down in pit lane, as is the Porsche of Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, the young Omani driver who takes over from the super experienced Andy Soucek. Another lap, he stays out. Going right to the time limit. They need to be careful. They are incredibly experienced. A world-class team.
What they're getting here with Frederick Schandorf, who is their closest rival and is obviously a lap down in the mirrors, at least 6 laps tyre life advantage when it comes to the end of the race. Now, knowing that they might have different pit stop times as well, that could be crucial, particularly if there's a safety car. Safety car brings everyone back together. Having fresh tyres is going to be super important. We're now looking at the Lamborghini. You said it was a Tiger livery. Kind of a Tiger. Obviously, it's green.
On the back of the rear wing. We'll get back to that in just a moment. In fact, this is from onboard. Wow, Jan Seifert fighting violently, lucky to keep it on the road. Kicks up some dust, a big moment for the German driver. One of the lesser experienced drivers in the field, Jan Seifert, coming over from the TCR Germany series, now stepping up to this ferocious V10 GT3 Lamborghini. We are looking at Joe Osborne. Surely he will pull into pit lane this time.
He'd have to. There is 1 minute 48 on the clock to get into pit lane, and if he did another lap, he would be cutting it, I think, 2 seconds too long. He's riding the curb, he's slowing down. Lamborghini was quite lucky there. If they'd been a little closer, it could have been quite nasty, as we've seen actually in Formula One, where that's happened in particular. Drivers go into pit lane, the blind crest of turn 9. Now, 70-second handicap, that's 20 seconds shorter than Frederick Schandorf, who is in a net second place. He's currently 4th on the road. And it also does mean Yuki Inamoto and Nico Bastian do have to pit. We can see Yuki Inamoto at the back of the picture. There was another car that went past, but I don't think that was Nico Bastian. I think that was the McLaren. So the lead battle is taking place right now in the pit lane.
Joe Osborne steps out of the 72 car. Nick Moss literally jumps in. As the 19 Lamborghini also down into pit lane. Yuki Inamoto steps out. He's driven as hard as he possibly can. Baptiste Moulin steps into the green machine, and we've got news that car 5 is under investigation. That was the number 5 Olymp Racing Audi. And Florian Schultz is about to take over. In fact, he already has from Nico Bastian. So the leaders, 1, 2, 3, Nick Moss, Baptiste Moulin, and Florian Schultz are leading the race, but at the moment they're stationary in pit lane. On your screen, potentially, is the new race leader, Frederick Schandorf. The Great Dane in the 63 Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini, as his teammate Baptiste Moulin exits pit lane.
It'll be a change of positions, and that second Lamborghini was 12 seconds behind at some point during the first stint, so a huge switch around. Now the AM-class car that's under investigation was on the jacks for 7 minutes in the pit lane. Now, I'm not sure what the regulations are if you can have like a maximum pit time, but the fact that when you've got team members working on the car, that is heavily regulated, so you've always got to be careful with that. The 2 Lamborghinis are in frame now. You can see 2 of the chasing cars behind. Now, where is the gap to Nick Moss? Nick Moss is our new leader, 14 seconds clear of Baptiste Moulin. So
they've done it comfortably.
Yeah, 20-second difference in the... Actually, no, so Frederick Schandorf was the car who was in second place, and they had a 20-second difference for the success handicap, so they're 18 seconds ahead. So Schandorf's already closed in. Then Baptiste Moulin, it was a 10-second difference, and they're 14 seconds ahead. But they started this stint kind of like 21 seconds ahead, and now they're 14 seconds ahead. So in total, the 2 Lamborghinis are faster right now, but Nick Moss, with the shorter pit stop time, has come out with a very comfortable advantage, and with 27 minutes to go, and around a 90-second lap, so you're going to get around 14 laps and 14-second gap. Could be a very interesting end to this race.
Christian Korsanowski in the background. They have rejoined in the 5 Olymp Racing Audi. This is Baptiste Moulin going by at the bottom left of your screen. And Frederick Schandorf, he is the championship leader, remember, together with his teammate, Michele Beretta. So Schandorf in position 3. The loser out of this for the moment looks to be the 77 Lechner Racing Porsche. Al Faisal Al Zubair in position 4. Charlie Eastwood in position 5. Florian Schultz, Ollie Milroy, Jan Seifert. We rode with him just a few moments ago. Adam Carroll, Marcus Pavarud in the Honda. Then Carol Bash will try and get a look at the 777 Olymp Racing Mercedes GT3 with Carroll behind the wheel, Dominic Schrammel, and then Christian Korsanowski in the 5 Olymp racing car. The Audi, the final runner in this field. This is Al Faisal Al Zubair.
Since taking over the car, Marcus Pavarud, who's currently in 10th place, has already had track limits warning at the final 2 corners. So in the number 11, that's not a brilliant start to his stint. However, he is only 2.7 seconds behind Adam Carroll and 2.1 seconds out of Carol Baz. 2 Carrolls there. So he's got quite a battle going on he's going to have for the next 25 minutes of this race. Nick Moss, since taking over the car, he's added a second to his lead, although he's actually had that cut down again in the most recent sector by Baptiste Moulin. Further 2 seconds back is Schandorf and then Al Zubair. Now, Al Zubair's probably got the most to fight for right now as the M-Class car went past us in the commentary box right now. He's actually overtaking someone. Now, being 5 laps down, that's a bit weird to see. Normally you'd have blue flags being waved. What I was going to say was Al Zubair, because he is a solo entry and the 2 cars ahead of teammates, he can close in on them and he doesn't have to worry about, the title picture of these 2. He can just battle as hard as he wants.
Baptiste Moulin takes a very wide line going into the Niki Lauda turn 1. Frederick Schandorf behind his teammate Al Faisal Al Zubair in the background. In fact, they're all in the same shot. Second, third, fourth, the 2 teammates for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. And then the Omani, the young Omani, he told us yesterday, as Baptiste Moulin deliberately leaves space for his teammate. That's good teamwork from the VSR Lamborghini drivers. So Schandorf going through on Moulin. Al Faisal Al Zubair saying, yes, this is not our best track. And he was... I'm trying to think of the correct adjective. He was, let's say, quite descriptive when he spoke about the speed, the bolt acceleration of the McLarens racing here, particularly here at the Red Bull Ring circuit. He said they are just incredibly quick as they race up the hill, not only under acceleration, but top speed as well. This is Baptiste Moulin making a way for his teammate, Frederick Schandorf, who is the series leader in 2nd position. Nick Moss is the race leader. And Christian Korsankowski not going so slowly.
Yeah, he's staying with him, and
this is impressive.
I did see them going side by side at turn 1 the previous lap, and the number 5, I think, actually got ahead going into turn 1, and then the McLaren has got back past. Now, Nick Moss is losing time because of this. 1 minute 32 last time by, 1 minute 32 for the Audi as well. 1 minute 30s despite the overtake for Schandorf. So he's cut off 2 seconds of that 15-second lead already with 23 minutes to go. This is not very useful for the leading car right now, Nick Moss. And also, Christian has already secured the M-Class victory as the only M-Class car in this race, so he really doesn't need to fight with the overall leader of this first International GT Open race of the weekend.
Particularly with the lights on the Audi, the bright fluorescent orange colour scheme. It will be something of a distraction for Nick. Out front, he is the race leader though.
And we just got a message from race control. It's been declared a wet race. That's Ollie Milroy in 7th place. He's been chasing Florian Schultz for a few laps. He's going to try and take the inside line into the Ramos hairpin.
And he does
Schultz
it.
leaves in the space.
So it is raining here at the Red Bull Ring. Just a few moments ago, the sun had come out to shine. We have got official confirmation that it is a wet race. That may well explain the lack of pace comparatively compared to Christian Korsanowski just a few moments ago. They're doing 132s, 133s as rain ever so lightly starts to fall here in Austria. Florian Schultz, Ollie Milroy, they trade positions. And the McLaren takes the Mercedes GT3.
And
they both look up.
They've gone very, very wide there. Al Zubair right off, and he's lost 2 places. Sam DeHaan, it was handed over to Charlie Eastwood now, so Eastwood goes into 4th place. past Al Zubair. Those final two corners, it's all downhill, and basically puddles can almost collect at the bottom. Obviously, the circuit's got very good drainage. We can see the pit straight now has got a lot of rain spots on it. There are people in the pit lane looking at the sky now. We've already had, and the windscreen wipers are on. I don't think anyone's got wet compound tyres. Obviously, a lot of the tyres do have a tread in them. Michelin do a very good kind of compound for that. But in extreme wet conditions, you do want to tend to change. And that is the Lamborghini just ahead. So Charlie Eastwood's actually closed in on Baptiste Moulin significantly, 2 seconds on the last lap. Lap time's getting slower by a few seconds as well. Here's a replay of what happened with a second Lambo and Al Zubair.
Just a few moments ago, Al Zubair just keeping it on the circuit.
Opposite lock twice.
The wipers are on as you ride on board with the Irishman, Charlie Eastwood. And takes the Porsche, nicely done. He's up into position 4.
And we're going to go, well, going to look at the Audi that's got ahead of Nick Moss again.
Nick Moss does not have the pace. Do they have an issue with this car, or is it just the rain?
It's just the rain, because the lap time's now 1 minute 33 for our Nick Moss, and it's consistently 1 minute 33 for everyone else, as Charlie Eastwood's going to try and go down the inside of the Lamborghini into turn 9. He can barely see anything with the LED glare of the rear lights of the Lamborghini, and of course the windscreen wiper wiping away the rain. The Lambo really does not look comfortable compared to this Aston.
Baptiste Moulin on the brakes early. Charlie Eastwood lines him up. Now, once again, it is getting dark here at the Red Bull Ring. Charlie Eastwood, 1 place off the podium in race 1, round 5 of the GT Open International Championship. A good recovery from Al Faisal Al Zubair in the background. Charlie Eastwood pulls out to his left, to your right. They're side by side as they race up the hill. Baptiste Moulin versus Charlie Eastwood. Lamborghini versus the Aston Martin, and the Porsche, the Legna Racing Porsche, which was on the top step of the podium at Imola, closes in on the back of the both of them. They race down the hill. Moulin holds off.
And they're rapidly closing in on the cars in front. Nick Moss had a 13-second lead, went down to 10 seconds, now it's 7 seconds. He lost 4 seconds being unlapped, essentially, by the AM-Class car at the tail of this field. It's causing chaos at the front because they are all closing in on Nick Moss. Schandorf just ahead of Moulin. Moulin has Charlie Eastwood all over him. Al Zubair has recovered very nicely from his turn 10 off. And although Ollie Milroy is 17 seconds behind, he is also closing in on this battle. We know he's capable of, you know, getting those big gaps and turning them smaller. Now the pit lane is utterly soaked. Right now, there's a lot of tyres in pit lane. I think a few pit stops are going to be cool.
Charlie Eastwood, let me preempt what may happen in 20 minutes' time. This is a big call, I realise. They can win this race. They have got the speed, and the leaders are struggling. The Aston looks good here at the Red Bull Ring. Charlie Eastwood lines up Baptiste Moulin, who tries to drive him into the pit wall. Eastwood will not be happy with that. Pulls to his left. Oh no, the right. He stays right behind the Lambo, which will lock up down into turn 1. He'll be slow on the exit. There is Al Zubair in the background. This is a fabulous fight as the teams get ready down in pit lane, a wet pit lane, ready to bolt on Michelin wets. Eastwood on the back of Moulin. They race up the hill. Up the inside, tries the outside, does the Aston. Eastwood, can he take the place? Not this time. Baptiste Moulin holds him off again.
And there tends to be kind of a wet racing line where there's different levels of grip once the rain falls down, but you can see so much marbles on the outside of turn 3 and the inside of turn 1 that where he wants to make an overtake, he can't. He's got to force the Lamborghini head to completely offline to take that initial racing line to then make a move. Otherwise, it's just not possible. He's going to slide off wide, or he just has to be very, very careful on the brakes. Al Zubair drops back a little bit, and now Nick Moss is only 1.8 seconds, 0.8 seconds ahead of Fredrik Schandorf. Our lead battle has closed up massively. 5 seconds, 5.5 seconds gained on the previous lap. Here's a replay of the Balf Audi battling with the
Carol Bash up the inside.
Yeah, we need to go to our lead cars, though. I think that's them coming through the final corner. We can see them from our commentary box. There goes the AM-Class Audi past us, several seconds ahead of Nick Moss by this point. Nick Moss has the Lamborghini right
behind him. This is the battle for the race lead. The difference was 17 seconds with 17 minutes remaining in what is now a wet race. As Schandorf locks up, tries the outside. They both run off the circuit. This is spectacular in the GT Open International Championship. Nick Moss has seen his lead disintegrate. He was almost 20 seconds. He has been caught hand over fist by that Great Dane, Frederik Schandorf.
It's incredible battling, and the Audi ahead is several seconds faster, and we could see behind them as well, Charlie Eastwood was alongside Baptiste Moulin for third place. So we've got the two Lamborghinis currently in second and third. They could end up first and fourth by the end of this lap. Very early on the brakes is a Lamborghini. It's looking particularly tricky, that heavy car, but he's trying to take the inside line, just slides. So the weight distribution, it's all about knowing how to play with the weight, but Nick Moss is way too slow on the exit,
Moss
and he's got through.
Almost runs off the road. What a drive, Frederik Schandorf. He's the series leader. He has come from literally a mile back, and he's taken the lead away from Nick Moss. Brilliant drive, brilliant pass from Frederik Schandorf. Car 63 for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing goes through into P1, and he's pulling away. Nick Moss struggling for pace.
Alongside, he takes the inside line. He's staying ahead of Eastwood, but Eastwood's on the outside. That's going to become the inside next corner. He's made the move. He's up into third place. Moulin's down to fourth. Alzubert is watching behind, probably licking his lips, wondering what's going to occur between these two. Turn 9 defends heavily on the inside, but still the Lamborghini wants to make a move. I mean, you shouldn't go on the curbs because that's going to be very slippy, but equally it's slowing you down safe enough that you can go down this very treacherous downhill, turns 9 and turn 10 to end the lap. It is torrential rain right now. It's only getting worse. There's more teams out the pit lane, but still no one's been summoned in for a pit stop. We can see some of the pit crew looking a bit tired and bored. They're waiting for a call to be made. So 2.6 seconds between Schandorf and Nick Moss. Then a further 10 seconds to Charlie Eastwood in third. 3 tenths to Moulin and a 6 tenths to Alzubert. Ollie Milroy's closed in another 2 seconds, and he is probably the fastest driver on track right now. And even further back from that, we've got a huge battle going on between Baz Pavarud and Adam Carroll as well. Action all over. The Lamborghini's going to try and return the favour on the Aston Martin.
Charlie Eastwood now up onto the podium. A brilliant opening stint from his teammate Sander Hahn. Baptiste Moulin in P4. This has been a nice, intelligent drive from Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, also in the Lechner Racing Porsche, who takes a wide line as you ride on board with Charlie Eastwood. The wipers on, he races down the hill, fights the wheel spin. It is a greasy track. Surely we are not far away from wet. It is quite warm here at the Red Bull Ring. We are in the dying days of an Indian summer here in Austria. Charlie Eastwood, this has been a brilliant drive as Al-Zubair lines up Baptiste Moulin, who is struggling in the wet conditions, as is Nick Moss, who is second place. It won't be far, or it won't be long before Charlie Eastwood catches Nick Moss in the McLaren as well.
And the wind is picking up as well now. You can see, actually, that's the kind of the lights of one of the cars behind Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, but there is so much wind going up at the top of the track because of the elevation changes. It's making it particularly tricky. Lamborghini edges its way through the final corner. Baptiste Moulin is going to complete the lap. So Nick Moss is 4 seconds slower. There's now a 6-second gap between second and third place. So Baptiste Moulin, while he's dropped from third to fourth, he could actually go back up to third here because Nick Moss is dropping so much time to the cars behind. It's a bit crazy. We've got 13 minutes left. Lap times are dropped into kind of the 1:42s. So I'd say we've probably got 4 or 5 laps realistically. If it's going to get slower and the track temperature drops any further, people are going to just be sliding off. And at that point, they'd probably call a safety car. So the drivers are going to be very, very careful from now on.
Baptiste Moulin, let's remember that car has been penalised 3 seconds. Track limits when Yuki Nomoto was behind the wheel earlier on. Charlie Eastwood driving superbly. He's in position 3, trying to hunt down Nick Moss, who is still leading the Pro-Am category, we should point out, in the 72 McLaren. Frederik Schandorf in the race lead. He's now 7 seconds clear of Moss. And Charlie Eastwood, the two British supercars, McLaren and Aston Martin, are about to go wheel to wheel in the remaining few laps. In fact, they're now in the same shot on your screen. Nick Moss turns in. The gap was 7 seconds. Charlie Eastwood in car 69. The wipers on. Not quite, because the wind is picking up. Look at the spray though. I won't finish that sentence, but I have to concede. I do have to finish the sentence that it may not quite be wet enough to go full wet. More an intermediate setup as Charlie Eastwood fights the wheel spin. There's not standing water on the track, that's what I'm saying. There's not puddles of water inches deep. It is incredibly wet and greasy, but standing water of puddles, it's not really there.
Yeah, so that's number 72. That is Nick Moss. 2.1 seconds ahead of Charlie Eastwood. They're crawling through. So it looks kind of nice there at turn 1, but the pit straight is utterly drenched. Obviously, we're in a valley here as well, so weather fronts kind of move around in strange ways. Spa-Francorchamps is a great example of that, where you do see the weather kind of come and go. There's another 3.2 seconds to Moulin, who's going to drop behind Al Faisal Al Zubair with that penalty. And really, one of the fastest cars still at the moment is our AM-class leader, the only AM-class car in the race, the number 5, Audi, which is way ahead of Moss, and I think still way ahead of Schandorf as well, who's leading this race by 10 seconds with 11 minutes to go. So I think Lamborghini will win, at least in the Pro class. Nick Moss still leading the Pro-Am class by 21 seconds. And he's only 2 seconds a lap slower than Ollie Milroy, who's in 6th. So Nick Moss will still stand on top of the podium here, even if he concedes 3 more places. And you can see the rain coming off in front of the camera now.
Charlie Eastwood has now caught up to the back of Nick Moss. This has been a brilliant drive. As I look down the inside, too far back this time. Nick Moss, who was struggling for speed, one of the teams preparing for a stop. It is the Vincenzo Sospiri racing team. They are preparing to stop. It has to be surely Baptiste Moulin as Charlie Eastwood dives down the inside. He's gone through and taken second place. What a drive from the TF Sport Aston Martin team, sideways on the exit as he controls near on 600 horsepower.
And Akrip Vitesse have also pitted Dominic Schrammel from 12th place, presumably for at least a setup change, if not another set of tyres. He is going to exit his pit box now, off the jacks, automatic jacks as well. So Eastwood in second place,
Baptiste Moulin in pit lane.
So he's already going to concede this position to Al Faisal Zubair. With 10 minutes left, it's going to be quite a task. Here is a replay of the move. Eastwood edges his way down the inside. We see the Lamborghini hunting them both down. So Moulin, with that penalty, he could have just passed Moss on track and kept Al Faisal Al Zubair at bay. But now he's pitted as well and served that penalty, I expect, during that pit stop. It's going to be quite a challenge to, make up that time again.
It is raining heavily here at the Red Bull Ring as Baptiste Moulin rejoins with Michelin Wets on the 19 Vincenzo Sospiri racing Lamborghini. We have to watch his teammate, car 63 Frederic Schandorf, who does lead by 11 seconds over Charlie Eastwood. The Honda runs wide at the exit of turn 1. This is Baptiste Moulin. One driver we have to keep an eye on is Carol Bash. The 2015 World Kart Racing champion is a super talent. He's driving a Pro-Am car. He was in last place, and he's now up into position 7. He is carving through the field like a hot knife through butter. Next in line for the pole is Florian Schultz. This, on your screen, is the race leader in atrocious conditions here at the Red Bull Ring. It is Frederic Schandorf. Does he stay out? Yes, he does. Another lap on slicks on a very greasy circuit.
Yeah, so a pit stop here is at least 35 seconds added on before even taking to changing the tyres. He's got a 10-second lead here. So if he pits and Eastwood pits, that's fine. He could still lead this race because he's got quite a big gap to Al Faisal Al Zubair. However, if Eastwood doesn't pit, and he does, would he then have the pace advantage to get back past in the time remaining? I don't think he would. So he's kind of stuck on this strategy of staying on his current set of tyres right now as Al Faisal Al Zubair pits. That's going to make a big difference because Al Faisal Al Zubair is 3rd in the Pro class. That's a bottom podium spot. That does actually kind of open up the strategy for our race leader now.
This is a big call by Lechner Racing.
And the wheel gun on the front right isn't working. The nut's not connecting.
This is a disaster. A big call turns it. They were in 4th place. He's stuck in pit lane. The rattle gun is not working on the front right of the 77 Porsche. Ollie Milroy will inherit 4th place.
Can they do it manually, though? Hopefully they've got a manual solution. I think they're going to use a more powerful wheel gun to see if that works.
Let's hope for the Omani driver's sake it works. This is turning into a disaster. Andy Soucek down in the garage, helpless to watch on as Frederic Schandorf, the race leader, the championship leader, tippy-toes around the circuit on Michelin slicks. This just a few moments ago goes straight ahead, keeps it on the island just. This is turning into a nail-biter. What did we tell you? At 19 minutes to the checkered flag, Charlie Eastwood can win this race. He's 9 seconds behind Frederic Schandorf. on a very greasy circuit. The Dane stays out, still on Michelin slicks. And still the Porsche is down in pit lane.
Baptiste Moulin, who has pitted, he isn't actually going that much faster. It's around 1 second per sector, so 3 seconds per lap. And he's lost at least 30 seconds by pitting. So pitting this late into the race is not the right strategy. I don't think any of those drivers are going to have, got benefited from this. All it's done is promote Ollie Milroy to 4th place, Florian Schultz to 5th, and we've got Karel Baz now closing in on Baptiste Moulin very slightly, and he hasn't even pitted. So this is very interesting. Alzubert still in the pit lane, now down to 11th place.
Oh, look at the rain now.
Blimey.
Hold on to it.
He's going straight on, he's
Don't
going
throw
straight
it
on,
away.
turn 3. No, the lead car. He's going to stay out the barriers, almost out the gravel trap. Keep the engine running, but don't let the temperatures go too high. Oh no, so Charlie Eastwood is going to lead this race.
Charlie Eastwood, we told you, we picked it.
No, he's off as
Spoke
well.
too soon.
He's, oh my word, he's backwards in the gravel. That gravel is very
Safety
deep.
car's
And
out.
there's the McLaren of Nick Moss. So Ollie Milroy will be leading this race, unless I've just jinxed that as well. The graphic is in the way of the turn, so we can't see who is actually still on track. And Nick Moss has got going again, so Nick Moss could be our leader.
Fortune for the Brit.
There is, and that is the second McLaren. That is Ollie Milroy in second place, itching his way through turn 3. That's the only way I can describe that. That is the second Lamborghini, and Florian Scholz in the Mercedes spins, and he just avoided the other drivers. The Lamborghini, Shandorf's doing a great job to reverse that car through the gravel. That is very deep gravel at turn 3, because it's there to stop them. The number 777.
Carol Bash is off.
Yep, and the Balf Motorsport Audi of Adam Carroll. So our order now is Nick Moss in first place, somehow. Ollie Milroy in second place. Frederick Schandorf got it going again, he's in third place. Baptiste Moulin, I haven't seen him, possibly in 4th place. The number 777, so Baz is staying in the gravel. That is firmly deep. You can see the wheels are sinking, almost like quicksand. There's the 3rd Lamborghini, so that is...
Jan Seifert.
Yeah, so are we looking at the lead batter right now? That's number 7, Ollie Milroy, and the 63, Frederick Schandorf. So we've got a pram, yeah, Nick Moss confirmed in the lead. Oh, Ollie Milroy 7 seconds behind in second place, half a second behind is Moulin, and he's not allowed to overtake because they're behind the safety car now.
Red flag. The race has been red flagged. Nick Moss. I have to wait before finishing this sentence. We'll go back to the replay first of all. Frederick Schandorf, heartbreak for the championship leader, the race leader, into the gravel. Michelin slicks, and he's out.
To emphasise how wet this is, the cameras won't show that, but that's at least a 6% incline. He is sliding uphill at speed, and so is everyone else.
Reduced speed, mind you, but he's
Yeah.
done superbly well.
Gravity has helped him here to
Correct.
reverse back out the gravel, so
A la Lewis Hamilton at Imola earlier on in the season. This is Florian Schultz. He was in position 6, the 47 Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes. He just stays off the wall. This
Charlie Eastwood can't
was
see
potentially
anything.
a victory thrown away for Charlie Eastwood. We can't blame him though.
And you know what he's done
Driven
there? He's
superbly,
moved to the
but-
left. All of them have moved to the left because they want to take, you want to take a wider entry to the corner so you can have more open steering. And the Balf Audi has stayed on track while everyone else has gone to the pits. You want to have a more open steering, therefore it's easier to turn in wet conditions. But as soon as you go on that white line on the outside of the corner, you've got no grip, it's just paint. And then you slide off.
Okay, take a breath, folks. Stand by. The race has been red flagged. That means we go back a lap. It looks as though
The clock's still
provisionally
going. The clock is still going though.
we believe Frederick Schandorf may have won the
this
race.
race.
That is provisional. Don't lock that in concrete because we do have to backtrack a lap. The race, you can see the graphic to the top left of your screen. Yes, the clock is still ticking, but Frederick Schandorf may still have won the race. He's made it back to pit lane, and they are wheeling the 63 Lamborghini down into Parc Ferme. Charlie Eastwood, therefore, may well be classified in second place, and Nick Moss in third. Chaotic scenes here at the Red Bull Ring.
You can see how much water they're displacing with the tyre tracks. Now, I think Moulin took the pit stop and if he served a penalty in the pit stop 2 laps before, because obviously some drivers pitted the lap before the red flag, and that's going to complicate things as well, because technically you finished the lap in the middle of a pit stop, and
The big loser out of this is Andy Soucek and Al-Faisal Al-Zubair. You remember that they did come into pit lane to go to Mitchell and West. They had a problem with the front right. They're still stuck down into pit lane. There is confirmation. Frederick Schandorf puts the Lamborghini into the gravel at the top of the hill. We go back a lap. He's won the race. Wow.
I wonder how many drivers have done that.
I'm going to be a little bit patriotic here and go through the history books. The Bathurst 1000, 1992, when Jim Richards in Godzilla, the R32 Nissan Skyline, the GTR, crashed at the top of the hill. They were the race leader. Dick Johnson in the Sierra came across the line and says, "Thank you very much, this race is mine." And they famously went to the top of the podium. That was near on 3 decades ago. That was almost identical circumstances to what we've got here this afternoon. That was on the other side of the world many, many decades ago. Frederick Schandorf with Michele Beretta, the get out of jail free card. Wow.
And what's happened here is Schandorf's missed the kind of place you're supposed to stop when you win the race, and he's kind of stopped near his pit box. Then the rest of the cars are all queued at the actual end of the pit entry, so they haven't really come into pit lane, and the clock is still ticking.
Well, to be fair, I believe that Frederick Schandorf was going down because he did extract himself from the gravel very skillfully, dove down into pit lane to bolt on Mitchell and Wetz, and then the race was red flagged, and the Vincenzo Sospiri racing team have pushed the Lamborghini back towards Parc Ferme and the rest of the field.
There's just something about the VSR Lambos and winning in the most dramatic styles. The GT Cup Open Europe finale in Monza 2019, one car set on fire, the other had a wheel kind of combust as well on the final lap. Absolutely crazy scenes, but somehow this team and this car ended up on top once again. I'm imagining Vincenzo's heart rate just went through the roof during those final few laps, and it's still raining. It's raining very heavily, so hear it on the camera. It's not going to be the most fun podium, is it?
So provisionally, Frederick Schandorf has won the race together with Michele Beretta, and with that, they do extend their lead in the championship. Charlie Eastwood in second place, back with us, TF Sport. Charlie Eastwood and a great opening stint in the drive from Sam Dahan. They have finished in second place, so Pro Cars 1 and 2. Nick Moss in third place in the top Pro-Am car. The Inception Racing by Optimum Motorsport, the McLaren, Nick Moss and Joe Osborne, we believe, have finished in third place. Nick is smiling to the right of your screen. Ollie Milroy to the left. Wow, a sensational finish to race 1 here at the Red Bull Ring. The rain is pouring down. There is Charlie.
What this means is there was no impact on the Pro Class podium, but Pro-Am, Ollie Milroy second, Florian Scholl second. Ollie Milroy second, Florian Scholl's third, and then you've got Adam Carroll down the order, Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, who's in the Pro Class. Oh no, the order's just shifted. We're on lap 40. Our timing screen has just gone back to lap 39. So we've now got Al-Faisal Al-Zubair in 4th place.
Provisionally,
seconds,
we have to put big asterisks.
According to Article 41.12 of the sporting regulations. I'm going to quickly find what that is.
Schandorf has still won the race. We'll try and listen in down in Parc Ferme.
3rd and 4th overall. They would have been 1st and 2nd if they didn't red flag. Where were you when you red came out?
Very bien.
Chi ha vinto? Cioè non è il giro prima, no? Non è il giro prima? Con la rossa?
Yeah, the second half. Yeah, the blue one.
The standings to the left of your screen, that is provisionally the result of the race. We can't emphasise that enough.
I went properly. He goes right at 500 metres.
Team three, good like you and Lambo.
I went with like 2 seconds.
I went at like 250.
And then I'm just getting like,
Where do you reckon you did great? I was 500 generally too late.
it was hard.
Because you went past me, right?
No, that's somebody else. Somebody, I stayed at the
Just.
Yeah, to your right.
It's on fucking Nürburgring, that F1 race.
But it won't slow down, Simon. I'm convinced I'm going to just lose into the back again. Just go like
Something similar. I saw him.
So smiles down in Parc Ferme, Charlie Eastwood.
Reference to Marcus Finkelhock's Formula 1 debut there as well. Level of addition, you've got a track to go past track now. So Article 41, normally when a race is red flagged, you have to indicate when it's possible to restart. For example, if a car goes off like this, here is our race winner, Frederick Schandorf.
In the gravel.
Yeah,
Incidentally, he lost only 30 seconds, including this moment. He extracted himself from the gravel. Charlie Eastwood did
second
likewise. He actually crossed the line with a 2-minute 3 lap time, which is slow, but it's considering the conditions, considering he was parked backwards in the gravel. 2-minute 3 last time round. This is
Here
Florian Schultz,
Florian Schultz, yeah. Probably the most spectacular of them.
and luckiest because he avoided the wall
And he avoided the gravel as
Charlie
well.
Eastwood. Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
So he had to really slow himself down, and the track conditions couldn't even grip. Quickly read Article 41.12. If, due to cause of force majeure, it could not be possible to resume the race, the stewards will consider finishing, providing the leaders covered the 75% that was intended. The classification will be established according to the race order on the lap just before the red flag. However, that was lap 40, and then we came to lap 39, so potentially because there was so much chaos, they've taken it back again.
And we did get notification that the race will not restart, obviously. Let's try and listen in. Here we go. Frederick Schandorf, together with Michele Beretta, have won the race. A great drive from Dehaan and Eastwood to finish in third, and Moss, Nick Moss, has taken third place. Here this afternoon, driving with Joe Osborne, Al Faisal, Al Zubair and Andy Soucek. They were lucky. They were parked in pit lane. They avoided the crash at the top of the hill, but we go back and they finish in P4. Then was the Inception Racing McLaren with Milroy behind the wheel. Florian Schultz was in position 6. Carol Bash, he ended in the gravel, but the 777 finishes in P7. Baptiste Moulin, Marcus Pavarou, the Honda in 9th, and Adam Carroll rounds out the 10. Seifert, Schrammel, and Christian Koronowski, who was impressive in the greasy conditions despite being some laps down. The final finisher here this afternoon. The championship looks like this. Frederick Schandorf and Michele Beretta 106. Andy Soucek in third place, or effectively second, on 94. And Al Faisal Al Zubair, his teammate behind. I'm sorry, I don't speak Polish. I can't translate this for you. There's Karol Bash to the right of your screen. Has made his way back from the top of the hill. For our Polish-speaking viewers, listen to this. The 72 Inception Racing McLaren of Nick Moss and Joe Osborne finish in third place. A great drive from Dehaan and Eastwood in the TF Sport Aston Martin to come home second on their return to the GT Open International Championship. Michele Beretta and Frederick Schandorf take the victory here at the Red Bull Ring.
It took a little while, but we have winners of race one at the Red Bull Ring. Frederick Schandorf, Michele Beretta, in a race that ended in a very stormy way. Maybe we start from the end. Frederick, how was it?
Yeah, the race was a completely crazy race. We started with Michele did a very good stint, and then I jumped in and was drive for some laps, and then was starting raining a bit, and it was actually quite manageable even when the surface was wet. But suddenly in T3 there was just like have been a thunderstorm or something. Everything was just aquaplaning up there, and I could see cars coming in the mirrors. It was a bit scary being there. So, but luckily the car is okay, and we won the race. So.
Michele, the first stint was easier in that sense. And the whole thing is very good for the championship in any case.
Yeah, this is probably the best result for the championship. And the first stint was much easier than his stint, but the pace was very tight against the McLaren. Nothing I could really do to catch him. I was just running, really at the limits. The car was super great to drive, and I think we did all really great work. So hopefully tomorrow is going to be a nice day like this.
Well done, guys. Podium now. Thank you.
The highlights of a sensational race one here at the Red Bull Ring. We started on a dry circuit 70 minutes ago, although it was under threatening skies. Joe Osborne, the pole sitter, led the field down into turn one and would pull away from the rest of the field. He drove superbly in the opening stint as the second McLaren went wheel to wheel with a HP Racing International Lamborghini. But the story of the race for mine was Charlie Eastwood and Dahan in the Aston Martin, who had a fantastic dice, initially with Yuki Nomoto and Nico Bastian. Finally, the 72 McLaren would come into the pit lane. His alarm pulled over to let his teammate Frederick Schandorf go through and move up a few positions. Valuable points in the championship when the track was still dry, and then it rained. Joe Osborne had an enormous lead, but Frederick Schandorf just took pieces out of the McLaren, and the Dane would pull away to lead until the sensation of the race, which was this. It rained heavily at the top of the field. Florian Schultz into the gravel. Frederick Schandorf from the lead. Charlie Eastwood also into the gravel. Adam Carroll as well. Fortunately, a relatively low-speed spin. The red flag came out. We went back initially to lap 40 and then officially to lap 13. And despite being parked in the gravel just a few moments earlier, the championship leaders take the victory after 39 laps of racing. So Nick Moss and Joe Osborne in position 3, and they are, of course, the Pro-Am champion team here this afternoon. Charlie Eastwood and Sam Dahan for TF Sport in the Aston Martin. A brilliant drive from the both of them. In second place, Michele Beretta, the Italian. And from Denmark, Frederick Schandorf stand on the top step of the podium for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini. And now, as the drivers stand on the podium, it has stopped raining. Thanks for your company here this afternoon. It has been a sensational race one here this afternoon in very trying circumstances. We'll stay with us, or we'll stay with you for the Pro-Am podium in just a moment. We'll be back tomorrow. And now the rain picks up once again, making a liar out of me. The Pro-Am podium to follow in just a moment. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 minutes to 2 for race 2. This is round 5 of the GT Open International Championship, as if the drivers are not wet enough.
I've only got one suit and my teammate's still trying to spray me.
Go to have a picture. We good.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Everyone's like.
Well, the other ones kept breaking. They would like fall apart in your hand.
Slice your hand. Congratulations. You have hepatitis.
These are a little big. You should recycle these trophies. Like all year, just give them back. Take a picture, give them back.
Magnetic plaque.
Literally.
They're proper trophies.
Massive, like, proper. It was so good.
But it's ninth.
Yeah, yeah. I've
It's 2
got to
foot
book
tall.
another seat on the plane and have it strapped next to you on the plane.
The Pro-Am podium here this afternoon in very trying conditions. In third place, car 47 for Antonelli Motorsport, Florian Schultz and Nico Bastian. Second place for Inception Racing McLaren, Ollie Milroy and Brendan Irib. Third place outright, and the Pro-Am champions of race 1 here this afternoon, Joe Osborne and Nick Osborne. Oh, Nick Moss, I should say, and Joe Osborne for Inception Racing in the 72 McLaren. And, of course, Christian Korsanowski back with us, taking the AM victory together with Stanislav Jedlinski. Thanks for your company. A sensational race 1. We'll be back to do it tomorrow afternoon, 10 minutes to 2, local time from the Red Bull Ring. We'll see you then.